Number 21, Mizzou. Number 15, Alabama. Alabama is a 14-point favorite. The over-under I have for this one, Will, is 82 Alabama penalty yards. That's what they're averaging.
Connor?
That's what they're averaging in SEC play. 4 SEC games are averaging 82 penalty yards per game. You're basically giving away a touchdown a game. Okay? You want to think about it like that? You're giving away 7 points by doing that. Hard to win games consistently when you're giving away that many yards. Hard to have an offensive script when you do that. And I'm not sure that it's because everyone is worried about effing TikTok, as AJ McCarron alleged on McCready and Siski. Okay. I'm not a TikTok guy, so I can't provide the breakdown of teams that are worried about TikTok versus the teams that aren't worried about TikTok. I think there are a couple that come to mind, maybe one of which we just talked about not so long ago that you would probably put in that camp. That I can't be the person that confirms or denies that. All right, that's all I'm saying. What's very clear, what's undeniable, is that Alabama is undisciplined. Alabama is scattered. Nobody talks about how Alabama was bottom 20 in the country in penalty yards per game, both in 2021 and 2022. They were getting penalties left and right. We were talking about it, I felt like, on a weekly basis.
We were, yeah. I was about to say, we talked about it.
But it does feel like a very convenient, that would never happen under Saban. And while you could certainly argue certain penalties wouldn't necessarily fly, and the whole Malachi Moore thing against Vandy, like you can talk about that and how that wouldn't fly, I totally get it. But it was a big reason why Alabama in 22 lost 2 regular season games. And then Saban is up there arguing for his team to make the playoff, even though he's well aware that his team's best win is against a bunch of 4-loss teams, and his team has no business being in the 4-team playoff. He was still doing it. But I digress. When you lose, we associate it with why you're losing.
Yep.
That's the problem. People don't realize SMU could end up getting to the ACC championship, and they're actually averaging more penalty yards per game than Alabama, but nobody's talking about that. It's wow. Look at what SMU's doing. Year 1 in the ACC. How about that?
Dallas. Cowboy hats, big money, penalties.
I watched Pony Excess again last week.
So good, dude.
I think it's my favorite 30 for 30. It's so freaking good, man. I absolutely love it. But it is kind of funny to watch it in the NIL era and watch a different perspective. Go back and watch it with that in mind. Yeah, you're just like, they're freaking out over $700. Buddy, the backup left tackle's getting that.
Carson Beck has a Lamborghini, and Jackson Dart has a private jet
deal.
They both
do. Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers have the private jet deal as well. And we're sitting here talking about, we don't need to get into that. But here's the thing. Alabama's discipline is beyond what's flagged and what's not. I think discipline is a very general, broad word to describe what's currently wrong with this team. I think it goes beyond even taking care of the assignment in a given play. You could argue these coaches need more discipline. We talked a lot about the defensive issues and all that, but I mean, going into the Tennessee game, Kalen DeBoer gets up there and he's like, we need to get Jam Miller and Justice Haynes more involved in the rushing attack. You know how many carries those guys got in the final 13:56 after Bama takes the lead in the game against Tennessee? 2. They got 2 carries. And I know they had the screen pass.
It's a Garfield meme with like, I wonder who that's for. It's like, my brother in Christ, you're Kalen DeBoer. Just put them in the game.
I know, and that's the thing. If you're going to be the head coach that's going to delegate play calling duties like he does, then that's the type of thing that you have to be on top of. And you can't use that as like, man, I guess we just didn't get that done. No, you have to take care of that personnel stuff because that's like 2022 early season Luther Burden with drink, with his usage that we were talking about. Speaking of Mizzou, bring it all back. They're playing in this football game too. Brady Cook.
Hold on. Because I was going to say, what's so funny about this is like, I've more or less moved it because the Bama thing is like interesting and then I want to see it play out. Like we've talked about it, bro. Like literally it just came up because whatever. And it's funny, just so you guys don't think I'm out here just slandering Alabama. Marler called me today. I'm like, hey, man, are you going to the LSU Bama game? Because I know that he does a lot of work in Louisiana and everything. And he said something to the effect of, I don't know, man, we're out there shooting jump shots on 4th and 1. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Did you see this? And Marler's like, yeah, dude, I'll send you the clip. Like, there were the 2 receivers on that tush.
Williams and Bernard were shooting jump shots. And they were
jump shots. I'm like, this is all news to me. This is the first time I'm hearing this. And then you start off the thing, you're like, Alabama, 82 penalty yards at this. But I'm like, wow, these are all new facts to me. I'm just living my life. So this is interesting. People are just walking up to me and telling me what's wrong with Alabama.
That was the first time in which I thought all across the board the lack of discipline was evident, and it's top down. It's not even just a specific unit. It's not just a specific player, and that to me was most troubling if I'm an Alabama fan. I'm interested if Brady Cook has his full arsenal. I expect him to play in this game. I definitely expect him to play in this game. If that man played in a game in which he spent a chunk of it in the hospital, he's not missing an opportunity to lead a one-loss Mizzou team in Tuscaloosa. All right? I know we're doing this before availability reports come out. I'll go on record saying I feel good about that, okay? But what I worry about for Mizzou's sake is despite what Cook did down the stretch against another team from Alabama last week, I don't know that Cook's legs will be a weapon in this. And with those accuracy issues that he's dealt with this year, that would worry me. There will be times in this game in which I think Brady Cook sees a running lane that normally it's 3rd and 8, and he could pick that up with his legs. And he keeps the drive alive. He keeps the chains moving. And he just can't quite get around the corner and get that in the way that he usually does. And I think that's important in a game like this. I still think Mizzou should be pretty effective in the ground game with Noel and Carroll, with those guys back healthy. If I'm Kirby Moore, I'm trying to tap into what Tennessee did down the stretch with Dylan Sampson. I'm not saying that Marcus Carroll is exactly like Dylan Sampson. I'm not saying anybody on this earth is like Dylan Sampson at the college level. Okay. Ashton Jancy might be. Ashton Jancy.
I was about to say, I don't think that's fair. That guy's better.
Right. I'm not saying that anyone outside of the state of Boise is like Dylan Sampson. All right. State of Idaho. I know Boise's not a state. Don't get at me. I know you know. Yeah. I think some of that frustrates Bama in this one. So I'll take Mizzou to cover plus 14. I think 14 is too many, but I'll take Bama to win, kind of like a down to the wire, need a defensive stop late type of game. I'll take Bama to win 31-24.
So you gotta. This is just let's consider it. Just say devil's advocate here, because we saw in the. You remember the Mizzou LSU game last year where Jaden Daniels took that hit, and I was like, I think he's dead. I think he just broke 2 ribs, and he came back in the game and led them to a comeback. And Brady Cook just had his version of that last week, right? The hospital stay is fascinating to me because it almost has to be a little bit of the Paul Pierce wheelchair thing, right? Because
no way. The Paul Pierce wheelchair thing was he had to go to the bathroom.
I know. I'm not saying you had to go to the bathroom. I'm just saying, maybe if you hang around drink that long, even if you're going to the hospital, brother, and you're checking back in the same game, to your point, you're probably fine the next week. That means there was a little bit of theatrics in my mind because you either need to stay in the hospital or you need to be in the football game, but you don't need to go, he's okay.
I don't know the logistics of it. Brady Cook confirmed that he was indeed in the hospital, and he talked about he wasn't missing this game. So this isn't a drink Theo Weiss situation at Texas A&M with sending him a blanket.
From Cook's perspective, if you hang out with drink for that long, it's like, I got to get the boys going. I got to walk out of the hospital.
It works.
I'm ready to lead the boys I'm going to be out here. I'm going to die on this field. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to catch everything. Brady, we're on your side. It worked. Whatever he did, it worked. That's all those.
For all I know, they kept him in a broom closet and found some tape. And they're like, just go to the indoor, test it out. We're going to see how your ankle is. Well, we're going to keep you in here for a little bit. Drew Pine, another incompletion. All right, come out.
All right, we got to do we're moving up that act. Yeah. So point being, I hope the guy's okay. I'm not kidding here. Like, I hope he's okay. I hope he wasn't legitimately like I had something wrong and he was like pushing off medical doctors and running back to the stadium in his pads because that's wild. That's like anime style. Anyway, so point being, I'm right there with you. In terms of I think Bama actually probably looks pretty good in this game. I think Alabama has an opportunistic defense. We kind of talked about that a little bit. They don't have necessarily a good defense, but this is a Mizzou offense that just hasn't exactly been clicking. When you have the talent that Alabama has and you have the playmakers that Alabama has, which they certainly do, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that there's going to be some, when Bama has struggled, there has just been some obvious problem. It's been oh, you can't block, Kennard. You can't believe you have Diego Pavia is just going to convert 1,000,000 third downs on you. It becomes evident really quickly. And I'm trying to find that thing that Mizzou can do on that level. Because I think that they can't exactly use Luther Burden correctly at this point. So it's not they just can't locate Luther Burden. They can't communicate. There's your answer, right? I mean, if they could get Luther Burden effectively utilized and move him around the field where Bama has to communicate, because Bama, as we've talked about when they've struggled, it's been a little bit of the man assignment and the mixing man and zone and the communication between the players. So,
Malachi Moore would be the guy that would be following him all over the place, I would imagine.
And that's a guy that technically has the talent to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm if they don't get creative with his usage the way that we saw last year, and we were just single covering him, they technically do have a guy who could do that. So I think that it really is going to come down to Burton's usage. And I'm not discounting Mizzou. I was really high on Mizzou earlier this season. The A&M game obviously gave me a little bit of pause. But again, this is a team that, like we were talking about, they're a one-loss team. They do in the SEC. They do control their destiny. I think that it really just comes down to that usage. But I think Alabama is going to cover the spread pretty much. I think they're going to go ahead and just because I'm trying to find that strength, and it'll be apparent from the jump, and it has been with Alabama. So we'll be able to see. But Mizzou just can't really like we didn't adjust at all against A&M. So I don't think they have the willpower to do that. You know,
The run game could be a definite strength for Mizzou in this one. Just kind of depends though. What if game flow early on doesn't really favor that? You can't necessarily get those guys going and kind of get their legs under them in the way that you would like to and find that sort of rhythm. It's just it is a little bit difficult to envision this Mizzou offense playing in what would have to be its best game of the year.
You know what? It's easy, bro. I hate to trivialize it to this. If last year's Mizzou team were to show up to this game, they would win it, I think, easily. Because when you think about the run game, Brady Cook being decisive, using their legs, if Brady Cook can use his legs, that takes away an element of the run game. If they can't effectively move their run around like they did last year, which was effective, so it's simple. What do you want to be, Mizzou? To let me know.
With Blake Baker as your DC, dialing up unique blitz packages for Jalen Milroe. Yeah, there are a lot of elements of this team last year that you would look at and go, man, this would actually be setting up really well. But they have not really tapped into that. Maybe they will in this one. It feels like a playoff elimination game of sorts because I know Mizzou fans won't want to hear this, but I think even a 10-2 Mizzou team would probably get left out without a top 25 team left on that schedule. It would at least get murky. Mizzou wants to avoid that second loss with the schedule and the way that it's set up. Best Mizzou win is double overtime against Vandy. All right. Pretty good win.